Okay, guys, let's talk about Ethereum. My Ethereum conviction, is it waning with all this negativity? Also, I've been making videos all week. I got a few. If you haven't seen them, you can on YouTube at Dave Levine, DOTCOM.com, or on Twitter, Dave Levine and the number 0com. You can check out my recent videos here. The negativity towards Ethereum is worse than I've ever seen. I remember in 2019 it was negative, but a lot of that was just because so many companies had raised money with Ethereum ICOs, and they had so much ETH. It was like, oh my God, people are going to be selling ETH forever. Oh, the price is bad. But nobody ever questioned ETH. I mean, people have questioned ETH as a thing that'll work, but it's just like this unanimous is like ETH, it doesn't work. So here's the thing. There are actually some valid complaints out there, and I want to address them. Let's just go through it. So the first one is value accruing to ETH. One of the reasons I liked ETH, or any token I invest in, is not only will it have users, applications, delivering value to users, but that some of that value gets accrued to the token. And because the ETH token is used for gas, is burned when it's used for gas, because it has its issuance rate is lower than Bitcoin's issuance rate in that there's it's non-inflationary. To me, it's better digital gold than Bitcoin. No one agrees with me on that, fine. But so it is also a store of value. And the Ethereum, the ETH token is needed to secure the network. Like, if ETH has no value, then the network won't be secured. So there is an incentive within the Ethereum community and the developers to make sure that value continues to accrue to it. And so for all those reasons, I saw not only is ETH the largest ecosystem with the most users and developers and applications and value locked and all these statistics, but there are systems in place that some of this value accrues to the ETH token. However, we have a problem right now, okay? And the problem is the roadmap, and I'm going to talk about the roadmap itself, which has other legitimate concerns. The roadmap is that the base layer should just be used for the largest valuable transactions, the ultimate settlement layer, and for speed and low cost and fast moving applications. Those are on these layer 2 applications, layer 2 chains. The layer 2 chains operate fast and cheap, but their trust is guaranteed on the Ethereum base layer. Now, the problem right now is Ethereum, the base layer, is not really getting paid much for its work as the base layer settlement layer. Now, I would argue, or many might agree, that, well, Ethereum is that's great value that they're offering. But someone can just throw up an L2. I mean, it's not that easy to launch an L2, but not that hard in relation to the amount of trust people can have in their money, or putting a lot of money on the L2, because it's connected to the Ethereum L1. And although they are sending some transactions to the L1, there is a good argument that the Ethereum token is not accruing that much value from all these L2s right now. So on one hand, I agree with that, but the question is that really a problem? And so here's the way I look at it, and there this comes up a lot with high growth. You see it in technology companies, is that you give your product away for free or low cost. When Uber first launched, it was so cheap to get a ride. Once they got everybody using the app, now the prices are more expensive. PayPal famously had a thing that if you refer a new customer, we'll give them $10 free. They were getting lots of new customers, giving them all $10. It was very expensive, but they were getting people locked in. So it's very common to give away cheap, not worry about profits. I mean, how many years did Facebook or Amazon not have any profits because they would put all that money back into the system, give, incentives. So anyways, this is a normal thing. And I view what Ethereum's doing as like, hey, we want to grow the Ethereum ecosystem as much as possible right now and not worry about just making profits come to the Ethereum base layer. So I'm not that worried about it. The concern, the only concern I have is that so many people are not viewing it this way that it's hurt. I think that contributes to the problem with the ETH price. Or if they were really, charging as much as possible to the L2s, maybe that would drive the price layer regardless of the narrative. And they're not, and I don't think they should. I think we need to make the Ethereum ecosystem as big as possible. And, and then that brings me to another topic is the system that we use for bringing value to the ETH token. We may need to have another adjustment. There have been adjustments over time. The burning of the ETH token for gas, for example, was new because that was like, ooh, that'll bring more value to the ETH token. Moving to proof of stake, that improved, I believe, the value of the ETH token because it had made inflation a lot lower and made the chain more secure. And we may need to make an adjustment at some point where somehow L2s are charged a little bit more money for the benefit of having the settlement on the Ethereum base layer. But that is not going to happen anytime soon. So, it's funny because sometimes in stocks you see this level of trust. How many years did Facebook have no profits, but investors were willing to pay a lot because they knew, we'll get them at some point, right? Same thing with Amazon. There was one period where they made Bezos, show us you can make some money this quarter. He showed, and everyone said, okay, and then he went back to plowing everything in and not making money. And with Ethereum, a lot of people, I think there's just so much doubt out there that the Ethereum token could ever really accrue value. So there's a lot of doubt out there. I don't have that doubt. I like seeing the ecosystem grow. I like seeing layer 2s grow. So I'm not worried about it. And then another concern, and this one is, I haven't heard this one much, but this is a concern that I sort of have, is I'm a decentralization maximalist. I love decentralized systems. I think they have the potential to grow bigger and faster than centralized systems. Or I like to say, if there's two systems trying to do the same thing, the decentralized one can grow faster and become larger than the centralized one because it's more open and it's just easier to grow fast. That's a whole nother conversation, but that's something I believe. But let's say, so now we got Trump and Elon and a bunch of smart guys in Washington. What if they're successful at making our government budget and financial situation reasonable, like something that we could trust? What if it's not running huge deficits? What if there's some long-term vision of like, the debt right now is sustainable? And now we have more trust in the dollar, and we don't have the vandals that were in charge. I was literally worried that someday that they would just come and steal the Bitcoin from Coinbase. I don't know. Why not? This administration's not going to do that. So if there's not as much distrust, then do we really need maximal, trust? Like so the thing that I always think about, people talk about centralized, decentralized, as if it's, black and white. It's not. There's a spectrum to it. And one thing I always talk about is it decentralized enough? And what is enough? So decentralized enough that some scammer can't steal money. We certainly want it decentralized enough against that. But does it need to be decentralized enough so that the U.S. government cannot, steal from it? Well, I mean, that would be cool, but what if the US government like has no intention of stealing from it anytime soon? Then maybe it doesn't really matter. So it's possible that if we're entering a time of more trust in government, or at least in the dollar, then we care less about extreme decentralization. And then people start looking at other chains and it's like, yeah, listen, it's open. Anyone can build on it, which is great. Anyone can create their tokens and there's all this innovation. And like, oh, well, it's not extremely decentralized, but yeah, who cares? No one's attacking it. Maybe that, or no governments are attacking it. Maybe that would be a risk because I think ETH wins on decentralization. And if decentralization becomes less valuable, this is something I worry about all the time because when I started on the World Wide Web, again, a decentralization maximalist, and that's why I was all about the web, got on really early, and I sort of discounted what happened when Google and Amazon, 5 big companies sort of centralized most of the activity on the internet, because I was like, oh, it's always going to be the most decentralized. And then we ended up in a world where centralization took over. And hey, that could happen in crypto. That is something to watch out for. And if centralized apps start winning and people, they say nobody cares about decentralization. Well, nobody cared about decentralization in 2021, but in 2022, all the centralized apps went bankrupt, right? So then they cared, and those people were gone, and the people in the decentralized apps had prices went down, but there were no bankruptcies in real DeFi. And that's sort of the thing, but, well, what if nothing crashes? Then you don't care. So it's just something to watch out for. How valuable is being the best at being decentralized, which I think ETH wins, and fine, Bitcoin. I'm not trying to argue that ETH, I will argue that ETH is more decentralized than Bitcoin, but I don't want to do that now. That's not the point. The point is, and you can make the same argument with Bitcoin. It's like, oh, the dollar's fine. So who cares about gold? Who cares about Bitcoin, right? If the dollar is great and paying interest and we're not that worried about U.S. treasuries and they're not doing KYC on every move that you make, maybe that makes the alternative less valuable. Now the other question, and we talked about this in 2021, which is what is more valuable? The platform that all the apps are built on. You've got the layer 1 Ethereum platform. Then you've got the L2 platforms. And then you've got the applications themselves. Which is going to accrue the most value? Or, maybe it's evenly distributed, but understanding that is a huge thing. Now, for a while, the L1s got the most value. And I've always believed, and I think we're starting to see it, where an application that captures a lot of customers who really are love that brand, that application can definitely grab a lot of value. Now, does that also bring value to the ETH base layer or to the L2 that it's on? Or do the apps just grab all the value? I mean, understanding that, and I don't even know how much I can predict that. And I've always said this is something to watch out for. I've said it's something certainly that's coming, but when is a big question. I think we're starting to see, I believe we're beginning to see the beginning of applications accrue a lot of value. And that's my theory here with Aave and MakerDAO. We're seeing things that I believe not only can us crazy crypto people be optimistic, but I think people on Wall Street are going to look at numbers there and just be like, okay, MakerDAO has a ton of collateral that they earn interest on, and they give some of it to the locked stable coins, and the rest of it they're making money, and this thing can grow. And they've got people locked in their ecosystem. I mean, not locked in, but, they have customers that are somewhat sticky. And it's like, oh, this thing has value, So it, and it's possible that, people go crazy in that direction. And if people were crazy in the direction of overvaluing L1s, random L1s in 2021. And maybe people go crazy overvaluing applications in 2020 something else. And, and in that case, people are like, oh, that now all of a sudden it becomes layer ones aren't worth anything and applications are the best. And then, the pendulum swings, but that would be something that could hurt ETH. Even though ETH is doing great, applications are doing great, L2s, everything's doing great, but the only tokens going up are the application tokens. I'm not even predicting this. I'm just saying this is another thing to look out for. And recently we've seen the good apps on Ethereum outperforming the L1 as far as token price is concerned. And it could be just a fleeting thing in a short term and nothing to worry about, but it's something else to watch. Now, another thing somebody mentioned, which is so important, I have a video, I think it's on the homepage of my YouTube. I'll check. I think I titled it "The Scariest Chart in the World" or something. I don't know, the scariest chart I've ever seen. And this is the chart, long-term chart of Amazon's price. And what I talk about in this video is, imagine in 1999, you were a genius and you said Amazon is going to be the number one. And this is when all they're selling is books and maybe CDs, maybe music. And you said, you know what? They're going to take over every category of retail. They're going to be doing this hosting company. It's going to be one of the biggest companies in the world. They're going to take over everything. And you were right. And you saw that. And you knew it when nobody did. And you bought the stock in 1999. It then fell like 90%. It didn't get back to that price for 10 years. That's what you call being right, but too early, right? And it's not just that you had to wait 10 years. It's that you could have bought it 3 years later, 10 times as much you could have invested if you had you waited. So the point here is, I'm right about Ethereum. It's going to win in the long run. And in 2040, everybody sees and agrees that ETH is the best and the things, and the things going to the moon. And meanwhile, you had 10 years of death, of low prices. So that's another thing to worry about is the timing, right? Because, and that brings me to another thing regarding timing is that the roadmap, okay? I like the roadmap. I almost said I love. I don't want to get too crazy here, but I like the roadmap because it makes, to me, this is how things work. Everything I feel in technology and almost in general, you have, this idea of a base, and then you have pieces off of it that settle. If you look at how, credit card transactions are done, like they process everybody processes in batches that sends it to another thing that has batches that sends it to the other thing. And in a way, I view L2s as this batch processing system and just distributing the workloads, based on their level of value. And it just, I understand that system of scaling, and it's been done before and it works. And that's how most of the world how most computer systems seem to scale. So, when I see Solana and it's like, well, let's do everything on one platform, I'm a little bit like, if you can give me an example of something that really has scaled all on one platform, let me know. Post it below. But I feel like that's certainly more rare. And I don't know that I even know of an example. There probably is one. I should have this conversation with ChatGPT, actually. But it just seems like Solana is working currently. And maybe it will, but it seems a little bit more risky. Anyways, so I like the roadmap. But doesn't mean that it's simple. Doesn't mean that it's done. Doesn't mean that everything is perfect right now. Right now, there is a big problem that we knew was coming. I think I may have underestimated how much of a pain in the ass it would be to everybody. Is, all these L2 chains, they don't communicate with each other well. In fact, they barely communicate at all. There are some things that work together. Everybody in the optimism network of chains, like those have some things they can communicate. Everybody recognizes this problem. It is being worked on. It is considered a priority. And I hear people saying, oh, within a year, we're going to solve this, that, and the other. And other people say, oh, it's never going to get solved. And this is hard for me to predict. I'm not a developer. I don't know what the core developers are thinking or doing or what's realistic. So this is a risk that, here's another thing. It's like, oh, yeah, all the L2s, they're going to communicate perfectly. And it'll be done in 15 years. In which case, that opens up the possibility that something better comes along. Or that somehow, they somehow lose because of that. Or they still win. It's just, but we're in the doldrums until that problem gets solved. Or maybe that problem doesn't matter in the long run. Solana, when you look at Solana, it's not that big, right? It's like, yes, they had 3 months of meme coin mania. If you look at the decentralized exchange chart for Solana, it's like, here's Ethereum's trading, here's Solana's trading, and then you had this, and back to here, right? It's just, to me, it was a blip, and it's just stupidness. Now, again, Solana may be wonderful, but it's not that big. To me, Solana's just like another L2, and maybe it's decentralized enough, like Base is, and maybe Base becomes bigger than Solana. And, so you have all these separate chains, and that's the world we live in. Is Solana really better than Base? Because, Base isn't good because it can't communicate with other L2s. Well, Solana can't communicate with any other chains either. So what's the difference? So anyways, but the communication, when we say the Ethereum ecosystem is the base layer and all the L2s, well, part of that means that they sort of are working together. And right now, each one is very separate. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to get from one to the other with the bridging and the timing and being able to communicate and have coins work with it. But at the same time, I believe it is coming together, and that is another issue to watch. Something else I was about to say there about L2s. Speed. I also, maybe this is a good point for Ethereum. I think that speed, cheap and fast on L2s or on chains in general is going to become a non-issue. They're all as fast as you could possibly want. Maybe there'll be one application that the one chain that can get, the 100 milliseconds slightly faster, it really matters. But in general, they're all it's all what is it, 400 milliseconds or less? It's just and for a penny, and now they're well, it's cheaper. There's the Ethereum L2s that are cheaper than Solana, and it's this thing is a millisecond faster. It's just guess what? They're all fast and cheap. And if they're not, within a year, I don't think speed and price on these L2s is going to matter. Or I don't think that is a defining factor, because it's just that is a commodity. So, so Solana's advantage there, I think, is already under attack. Okay. Two more points. Let's talk about the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik Buterin. So the Ethereum Foundation, a lot of complaints. And I'm somebody who loves DeFi. I think DeFi is the number one application, stable coins and DeFi apps. And I feel like Ethereum should promote that more. And Vitalik is just yeah, whatever. Now, and the Ethereum Foundation, they're sort of, there was a lot of complaints, and they responded a little bit, and they don't hate DeFi. They're just, listen, the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik, for whatever reason, are just a little idealistic, want to save the world in many, many ways that doesn't involve finance. And maybe that's good for Ethereum in many ways. So far Vitalik has done a good job leading, I believe, the technology and communication within the community. And I like him, but the path that he is on with that, I don't think it's negative, but I also am a little bit like, yeah, that's not the world that I'm that interested in. I mean, if something ever works in this world, I do like trying to get an app, privacy apps that work, and they're working on that. But all this stuff with communicating apps for, social apps and all these sort of public goods and all these dreamy sort of save the world, new ways of looking at things, apps. It's not that I don't think any of them are bad. It's just I like things that are real today, that work and deliver value today. That's what I invest in. I find that a lot of times when people dream about someday we'll be able to do this, you're so detached from reality. And I think that relates to why people, sort of say that the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik are communists, because communists, the term communist, there's the official definition, but a lot of it, what it is like, let's pretend that life will just be a dream. And because we can make it a dream, I'm going to take all your money right now. And if you don't listen to me, I'm going to kill you. That's pretty much what communism is. And so because they are tending towards this, there'll be this dreamy world and you don't need to worry about money, it just comes off a little commie-ish. And I don't like that. And not that I think Vitalik really is a nice guy and I don't worry about him. But just like when you get crazy DeFi and crypto, then the scammers come. When you get crazy, dreamy future world, you get the commies who want to steal and kill you come, right? So I don't love their world. And I see the problems that you have with DeFi, and I understand their criticisms of that. But, okay. And so the Ethereum Foundation, they're doing their thing. They've made some changes. I don't think it's evil. It's not looking toward DeFi, which I care about. But there is this new organization called Etherealize, which is focused on DeFi. They got this guy, Danny Ryan, who's great, who people wanted and I thought would be good at Ethereum Foundation. But instead of trying to change that organization, let them go off in there. What do they call it? The ultimate garden, or the whatever they're doing, tending to the garden of Garden of Eden that they're trying to create. Okay. And then Danny Ryan comes to Etherealize, where they're going to banks and showing them why they should build their applications on the Ethereum platform in order to make a lot of money and make the world a better place. That's what I like, and that's happening too. So that's sort of my sum on that. I think that's about it, guys. So bottom line, listen, my number one investment is Ethereum. It continues to be. I believe in it. I don't see any reason to bail. In fact, this level of negativity, most of it, as you've seen, I've gone through it. There are things to think about, but most of the complaints you hear online, to me, are just stupid. Like, people who don't understand what's going on. So the negativity, in a sense, is a good sign. Like, that Ethereum is not overvalued. Because I'm not hearing, very much at all. In fact, I've never heard so much negativity, which tells me the price, if anything, is, it's not high for what they're doing. And so that gives me confidence to hold. And, we'll see what, there's things to watch. And hey, listen, guys, I've been wrong before in my life. And it would be sad if I'm wrong on my number one conviction bet. But so far, I like what I see, and I believe the pendulum will swing in my favor again. So let me know what you think, guys. Comment below, and I will talk to you soon.